What it is, what's happening? Today we got a crusty heap. So what we're doing to the heap is, the frame rail's rotted out. So rotted out that the skid plate was welded to this piece right here. And it was hanging off the other side. So today, what I'll do is I'll take the torch and I'll cut this bottom part out. And we got a new piece of frame rail. They sell a kit that it slips over it and you weld it in. So what I like to do is, since it's so crusty and such a mess, I'll go in here with a torch and I'll just whack the bottom of this rail off, and then I can go back and clean it up and cut it a little nicer. I'll just use a torch because there's so much crap and garbage in here. So let's get at it. So now I got all the rail cut out and it really looks bad. So what I'll do is I'll go back, I'll clean this all up, get this a little cleaner. I'm gonna take the exhaust off. That way I can get inside this frame rail. I'm gonna go to weld it. There's what's left of the frame rail on the floor. Isn't that a shame? These Jeeps are terrible for this. Now I've done, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 of these things. In this kit that they sell, it slips right over here and you weld it all the way across the top here. So let me get it out of the box and I'll show it to you. So let's go ahead and unbox the frame rail pieces. Now this is nice. Made in China to the US. You know this is gonna be high quality. Actually, I've used these before, they're not bad. So let's see what we got. Let's see if these are the same ones as you got last time. The ones you had last time really worked well. I let him buy the parts, it doesn't matter really. Yep, same ones as before. New bolts to bolt the skid plate up. And that's your new rail. It's got the holes and the bolts, nuts actually already welded in there for the skid plate to bolt to. And these just slip right up over top of the other ones. I've used these before, they actually work pretty well. So let's go test fit one. Obviously I haven't really cleaned it up yet, I just got done getting it apart. We'll have to open it up a little bit, but that's about what it does. Now I got to open the front up here because somebody has welded a patch right here. So we'll spread this out a little bit. I'm not going to cut this patch off, and as you can see, I actually got to make another patch up there. Yes, this frame rail is in pretty bad shape. This is what we deal with on the East Coast in the Rust Belt. We're forced to fix this junk. This is somewhat of an acceptable repair. If it was my Jeep, I'd put a frame under it, but I've done quite a few of these and they've worked out well and haven't had any issues, so it is what it is. But you know, this thing will fit up in there. Like I said, we're gonna go ahead and take this down. I'm gonna go ahead and clean all this up, spread that out a little bit, and we'll fit it up in there. And when this goes all the way up in there, I'll actually be at the top of the rail when I weld it. I did remove the exhaust. And the reason I removed the exhaust is I'm not working under my 2-post lift in the shop yet. So I'm using a scissor lift and it's really hard to work underneath. When this truck is on the 2-post lift, it's really hard to weld the inside. I like to run a full seam all the way and not just spot it. Some guys do. I want to run a full seam because this is already kind of a, you know, is what it is repair. And it's really hard to get behind there with the cat and the muffler in place. So today I took the cat and the muffler off, and actually it needs a muffler and tailpipe anyway. So I'll probably return the truck to him with the rest of the exhaust missing. I'm gonna send him a message here in a little while and tell him that it's rotted. You may leave it off or put it back on. So I'm gonna have to let this down on jack stands. I'm gonna have to lay on my back to weld the inside seam, just because I don't have the 2-post lift. So for you guys that are gonna try to do this job at home, you wanna get the truck up as high as you can, because welding the inside is the trickiest part. The driver's side is not bad. There's plenty of room in there to work. Once the skid plate, obviously the skid plate has to come off the truck anyway. There's plenty of room to work on the inside. When we get to the inside on the other side, I'm gonna show you what I do with how I've made the repair of, so I can bolt the brake lines and the fuel lines back on the inside of the rail. Because usually all the brackets that are on there they're rotted and gone. So I started on the passenger side today because it's the hardest side to weld on the inside. So, but like I said, I decided to drop the exhaust. Now I got plenty of room for activities. I'll let this thing down on jack stands as high as I can put the jack stands up, and I can lay a piece of cardboard or plywood or something on this lift and lay on my back and run a bead and be done. Another thing I found with using this style repair is a lot of times it's really rotten and you got to cut a lot of material away from these body mounts. I've had to in the past lay some flat bar in there and build this up because this gap here is awful wide, and it's awful wide on the front ones as well. I've had to take a small piece of flat bar and just kind of lay it and then weld the flat bar on both sides to the body mount so that I don't have a hole that I can put my finger in, because it's usually rotted out and there's nothing there to weld to, or what is left there to weld to, you can't weld because it's just garbage. These things rot out pretty bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and fit this up, clean these rails up, and we'll go ahead and get this fitted so we can start welding it up. All right, so now I got her all clamped up, fitted. Now, here's where I'm talking about. Sometimes I just lay a piece of flat bar. And what I'll do is I'll lay it so I can weld it here and I can weld it here. I'll do it here and here probably as well, because you can see how it ends up with some gaps. We're not restoring this, we're doing a repair. Big difference. Some guys are like, oh, that's the wrong way to do it. At the end of the day, this is a repair. We're not restoring this truck, we're fixing it. I'm being paid to fix the frame rail, not restore the truck. So sometimes you got to improvise, make do with what you got. I did not make these frame rail repair panels. It's how they come. I'm just trying to give you guys some tips and tricks if you use this style frame repair of what I've done in the past that's worked. And actually, once it's all done and painted, it looks acceptable. I did, however, put some paint on the inside of this new rail because it's just bare metal, just to try to help it live 10 more years, I guess. I don't know. At least live long enough till the Jeep is done on the earth. So now I'm going to go ahead and start welding it up. I'll put a few stitches across the front, across the back, reach in and do a couple on the inside, and then I'll start welding it all up. I like to just kind of bounce around, get it so that none of it moves around, and then I'll start. I try to fully weld this entire patch in so that hopefully it gives some strength back to what's left of the frame. Let's go ahead and let's get started on it. All right, got it all welded up. I made a patch where there was a hole. You saw earlier there was a hole right there above that bracket. Again, we're not restoring this truck. We're just fixing it. This is just a fix. So it's all fully welded in, and I got to weld it. I've got a couple tacks on the inside, but I got to weld the inside. But I figured I'd go over to the other side and cut it apart and do the outside of it. Then we'll set it up to do the inside. I had to put a piece, like I talked earlier, laying a piece of flat bar, and you just kind of lay it in there on an angle It's because the way these rails, the replacement rails are made, there's just that wide gap. So this works to fill it in. It is what it is. This is, like I said, this is a repair. But we got her all in. She's all welded up, all done on the outside. Not going to put the steps back on because the steps are just rotted out. Where they mounted the frame, they're just rotted out. There's nothing left of them. So we're just going to leave them off. You can put an aftermarket step or something on it. So now we're going to move over to the other side, which is just as bad. The whole bottom of this rail just fell out. And there's nothing to... This is what we had to work with. There's nothing to hold the skid plate on. Like I said, they had it welded on the other side. There's nothing on the bottom. She's all gone. This step is all bent. It's not even lined up. I mean, you can see the truck's got some other rust issues. Like I said, this is just a repair. And somebody else has already put patches in, and they didn't do a really nice job. They are what they are. This side's got a little hole over here as well. We'll have to make a repair for that. We'll cut the rust out. I should have showed that, but I go in there with the cutoff wheel. I at least try to cut it back and then weld a piece in. So let me get cutting on this side, and we'll move on to try to finish it up today. So I got the driver's side done. We made our little patch above this drop bracket. We're all fully welded in now. So now we'll go ahead and put some paint on it, and we can bolt our skid plate up and call this job done. So there's no sense in you watch me put some paint on and waiting for it to dry. But if you're ever looking to fix a Jeep frame, it's really not that hateful. Just get in there and cut out the bad section, and these are designed to slip over. So it gives you enough material that you're actually over top of the rail and you can weld the two together. I've done quite a few of them. They've all held up very well. I haven't had any issues with them. Some states, I guess, let you fix frames, and some states don't. My state, they don't care. As long as there's no visual holes in it, it'll roll. But this one turned out pretty well. So hopefully you guys got a little something out of a Jeep frame repair. But that's what was going on in the shop this past weekend. We're going to get this thing off the lift, and we're going to bring in, I know I've been talking about bringing in the tow truck. Sit tight, but I want to throw that 88 Bronco that I bought. We're going to bring it in, and we're going to do all the brakes on it, a quick tune-up on it so we can get it up and running, because we want to go get it tagged. That way, at least it's sitting here, it'll be a tagged vehicle. I'm trying not to have any untagged vehicles around the new ranch. But we want to get it tagged because we're pretty positive we're going to do a 460 ZF 5-speed swap in that truck. And in my state, if it's tagged antique, it never goes back to DMV. But the trick is, it's got to be all stock when you take it through to antique it. So she'll be all stock. She'll be a 6-cylinder, plain Jane Bronco. Then we're going to lift it, and we're going to 460 ZF 5-speed swap that truck. But right now we're just going to take a couple days to do the brakes on it, give it a tune-up, get it running right, because the other day I moved it, was missing and run a little rough. So let's throw some wires and plugs on it, change oil in it, because the 6-cylinder is going to be in there for a little bit. We're going to lift it and do some other stuff to it, and then once we determine that the 460 in the parts truck runs and does everything it's supposed to do, we'll disassemble that. But we don't want to take that truck apart until it runs, because I'm hoping everything works well so I can leave it fuel injected. So anyway, I'm going to get back to finishing up this. Holler at your boy. Keep it reals.